Bismillah. So we have one direct question from Brother Farouk, and then we have some posted questions. Brother Farouk, you are welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, ya Sheikhna.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum, KLC family. Sheikhna, my question is a little long, so I'm going to try to summarize it to the best of my ability. Yes. I'm trying to understand nafs al-ammara. Especially, I'm trying to understand it in light of shaitan. A lot of times we'll say, so shaitan is marginal, and we need to be concerned with more about nafs al-ammara. I take that from divine justice, for example. My question for you is nafs al-ammara a separate entity of our creation, or is it a facet, a characteristic of our creation?
Nafs al-ammara is part of us. When we have not purified our nafs, then nafs would be leaning towards bad things and pushing us towards bad things. But it can be purified and transformed into a nafs which would blame us if we do bad things, nafs al-awwameh. Or if there is nothing to blame, after some time becomes nafs mutma'inneh. So human soul is not like a piece of concrete, for example, that would not change. Human soul can change. It can be a jewel, it can be polluted, it can be a source of pollution. So human soul is very much possible to be trained and changed, transformed. This is what is special in human beings, and to some extent in jinns, that we can either go to aswal safilin or to go to a'la alin. But it's not that it's fixed. It's not that, for example, there is a machine that has a faulty part, you have to throw it away, for example, and replace it with a good one. No, you have to fix it. You have to polish it. May Allah bless you, inshallah.
And some posted questions. First, I'll start with a question related to treatings on the manners. Tawbah. If one does sincere tawbah and they don't repeat the sin or do any other sins, but the sins come to the mind all the time, does this mean the sins are not yet forgiven? What's a sign that the sins are forgiven?
Normally they say if you manage not to repeat, inshallah it's a sign of forgiveness. But if you want more, if you feel bad whenever you think about that sin and has lost any attraction, then it's a sign of a spiritual tawbah. But the minimum is just not to repeat it.
Another question today, also manners of doing tawbah. Are there any special manners alongside huzn to observe when saying astaghfirullah? Should the 70x be done at a go? Any specific times or things to bear in mind as one prepares to saying astaghfirullah?
Of course, as soon as someone commits the sin, they should do tawbah. They don't need to delay. And according to some hadiths, actually, if you do it very quickly, it will not be even registered by angels. So as soon as possible, you should do tawbah. But in order to fix the problem essentially and from the root, it takes time. So it will not be enough to just say astaghfirullah. maybe it takes some hours, maybe it takes some days, maybe it takes some weeks, that you manage to stop attraction or stop leaning toward that. Therefore you repeat then astaghfirullah until it's all, you know, established. And then every now and then we can say astaghfirullah for every sin. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. So sometimes also we say in a general way because maybe we missed something, or maybe at that time I was not in a good condition. I need to renew.
And we have two questions from Divine Justice.
Yes.
What is the understanding of yaqeen from status Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam? Based on lecture 4, there is mentioned ilm al-yaqeen with the smoke from far, ayn al-yaqeen, which is seeing the fire, and haqq al-yaqeen being immersed in fire or touching the fire. How could we understand the idea from the respected ayah of تكاثر من الله كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين ألهاكم التكاثر لترون الجحيم.
So first is علم اليقين, and then عين اليقين, because كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين. So after علم اليقين is عين اليقين, and then it's حق اليقين. As you said, it's yaqeen, but based on a strength of your relation, it's getting more and more powerful. Sometimes I see a smoke, but I don't see the fire. I'm sure there is fire, because how a smoke then is created. Sometimes I see fire, but I don't see the heat. I cannot feel the heat. I cannot, experience with my, face, skin, etc. But I can see. Maybe someone says, okay, this is illusion. No, I have yaqeen that I am seeing the fire. But if I go very close and then I start feeling the heat on my face, or I put my finger very close and it starts burning, then this is haqqul yaqeen. And it's not only one sense telling me this. I can see, I can hear the fires, noise. I can touch it. So I'm very sure.
And the last question, with reference to the poem of Hafiz in Divine Justice, what is the understanding of the idea of cup of wine with the saqqai and trying to see the reflection? And there is an example that you mentioned in Divine Justice. And then the question comes, with my humble limited knowledge, why cup of wine is used as a reference? Is it based on something that's prohibited and we will receive as a reward in heaven? Jazakumullah khairan.
You're welcome. In mystical literature, they use wine because wine is like love. Love has the power of purifying, because you would have no attachment towards anyone else when you love someone or something. For example, some people love science. If you tell them, let's go to some holidays, let's go to some restaurant. No, they love science. If you let them day and night, weekdays, weekends, they remain laboratory, they want to work. Or some scholars, some talaba, they always want to study. They don't want to do anything, just study, except zaruriyat, emergencies. And if you love someone, the same. In Misbah al-Sharia, we say, Hubbullah narun la yamurru bishay'in illa wahtaraqa. It's a fire that would not pass by anything unless burns it. When something is burnt, it's purified. Yeah, one way of purifying things was through fire. Still, with fire, they purify things like equipments. Wine is somehow similar, but in the way that it's making you lose your calculations, and even you lose your own can say your own, for example, seriousness, or your own significance. You see someone who's drunk, they don't bother what people think about them. They don't bother about their clothes. If someone is drunk, they are free from such considerations. Of course, we don't like these kind of things in this sense, in physical sense. But when the wine of love is taken and you become drunk with the love of Allah, your worldly considerations stop easily, and you have no egoistic considerations. So because of several things, they have used this analogy in mystical literature, and they don't mean that we should drink wine na'udhu billah in dunya. No, it's just an analogy. Even in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ شَرَابًا طَهُورًا وَخَمْرًا لَذَّةً لِلشَّارِبِينَ. Even in heaven we have khamr. But why in heaven we have khamr? In this sense, that it's purifying and it's focusing you on your beloved. In dunya, Allah says, يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس. Quran is very objective and very fair. Doesn't say khamr and gambling are 100% bad. No, says there are benefits, but their sin is more. If we manage to just have a khamr free from those negative things, like in heaven, a khamr that removes any worries, any stress, any consideration of yourself, khamr that brings peace and serenity and focus on your beloved, that is a good khamr. In dunya doesn't happen like this. In dunya you lose your aql. You can not even look after your presentation. Therefore, it's against our aql. But in heaven, khamr helps aql to be free from any unnecessary burden.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh.
May Allah bless you.
I know it has been a very long day for you.
Thank you.
Should we proceed with salams?
Inshallah, yes, sure.